Well, greetings and welcome back. This is Robert from Black Belt Gaming. I'm about to begin the third turn in the first scenario, Passage through Mirkwood. Threat level is currently 34. Cards are refreshed, and it's time to begin the very first phase, which is the resource phase. During the resource phase, I'm going to add one resource token to each of the three heroes and draw a card from the player deck. A light in the dark. This allows us to choose an enemy, engage with the player, and return that enemy to the staging area. It's now time for the next phase. This is the planning phase where we can play attachment and ally cards. We're going to spend 4 resource tokens. And finally put our Northern Tracker, the Dunedain Ranger, in play. It says that after the Northern Tracker commits to a quest, place 1 progress token on each location in the staging area. That's neat. I'm going to move the Lorien Guide up just a little bit to make room for the other ally. We're now entering the quest phase. Our active location is still the Great Forest Web, and we're still being engaged by the Forest Spider, the Wounded Forest Spider. I now have to choose characters to commit to the quest. I'm going to choose Éowyn again, along with the Lorien Guide, and I believe, now that we have some assistance from the Northern Tracker, I'm going to commit Dunhir also to the quest, possibly planning on using that unexpected courage to allow him to fight in just a moment. The torch waving had successfully driven the bats back into the forest. Dunhir looked up the trail to see the Lorien Guide and Éowyn up ahead. He nodded to them and even waved the torch in a forward motion, indicating that they should press on. He then turned and readied his sword for battle. Here's our quest card with 2 progress tokens on it. Still in the questing phase, we now have to pull out another card to enter into the staging area. This is a creature, an insect, Hummer Horns. And it says, forced after Hummer Horns engages you, deal 5 damage to a single hero you control. Boy, I don't want them to get out. Threat level is 40. I might have a little time before they get to me. I certainly hope so. So there is our new staging area. The threat here is 1. We'll take that into consideration when we're looking to process whether we've made any progress on the quest or not. Well, let's take a look at the combined willpower here of our heroes and allies. 4, 1, and 1. Well, one thing we can do right away with the Lorien Guide is, after he commits to a quest, place 1 progress token on the active location. Well, that's going to allow us to put 1 progress token there on the Forest Web, the Great Forest Web. So still, counting willpower, 4, 5, 6. And a threat in the staging area currently at 1. That would allow us to place 5 progress tokens. But one of them is going to go there. But let's see. Why don't I use an action now? And thanks to some advice from some other experienced players, they reminded me I can use this action after the card has entered the staging area. So believe I'm going to discard a card. And why don't we discard this A Test of Will card. And we'll put that into the discard pile and boost Eowyn's willpower to 5. Let's see what we can do with that. Well, with Eowyn's willpower boosted, let's just start with that +1 that she received. And we're going to put that on our active location, the Great Forest Web. That brings it up to 2, and it takes 2 to remove this from the game. So that one's out. Alright, Eowyn has another 4 points of willpower to spend. We're going to subtract 1 for the threat here. So that will leave her 3 more. 1, 2, 3. And then we have an additional progress token for Dunhir and 1 for the Lorien Guide. That's going to total now 2, 4, 6, 7. So we only need 1 more to complete that quest card. We now have finished the questing phase and have entered the travel phase. There isn't a location to currently travel to at the moment. However, we're also allowed during this phase to take player actions, and that's one thing I will do now. I will exhaust Unexpected Courage to ready Dunhir for battle. The forest spider still loomed over the female Gondor noble. It continued its relentless assault, trying to batter through Eleanor's defenses. Alright, the spider is making its attack. Let's give it a shadow card. I'm going to allow Eleanor, with her defense of 2, to attempt to block the spider's attack. Let's resolve this combat. There are no shadow effects on this card. The attack remains at a strength of 2. Comparing that to Eleanor's defense of 2, no damage is done. Despite her wound, Eleanor kept her heavy shield between herself and the attacking creature. Dunhir and the Dunedain Ranger, weapons ready, closed in on the distracted foe. Well, it is now time for our heroes and allies to attack. So we will exhaust each of these characters. Dunhir with an attack power of 2, and the Ranger with an attack power of 2. That's 4. So they're going to combine their efforts against the spider. The spider's defense there by the shield is 1. So that's 3 points of damage that are going to penetrate the spider's defenses. That would do 3 hit points of damage. It's already suffered 2, so this spider is now killed. While the Dunedain Ranger fills the bulb-shaped body with arrow after arrow, Dunhir manages the killing blow, severing the creature's head from its body. We've now entered the 7th step, the 7th phase, the refresh phase. All cards are refreshed and turned right side up, and the threat counter is increased by 1 to 35. The warrior and the ranger, along with the assistance of the traveling halfling, manage to roll the large corpse of the dead forest spider off of the wounded Eleanor. Her wound was ugly, but not immediately life-threatening. The Lorian guide continued to urge them to make their way along the forest's path, to put as much distance as possible between themselves and the great forest web. Something caught the ear of the ranger. Just as the party was continuing on, he held up his hand and said, "Listen." Off in the distance, there was a great humming noise, something strange that none of them had ever heard. The Lorian guide's face grew pale.